I want you guys to understand something. I love this franchise. I love the original Tron film. I love Tron Legacy. Some people like to crap on Legacy. I don't know why. That movie's cool as hell. I love Tron Uprising. Some of you watching this might not have ever even heard of that cartoon. Companion piece to Tron Legacy. Go check it out. It only got one season, but it's a great show. I am a Tron fan. I was primed and ready to love this movie. When everyone else on here had no faith in it whatsoever, was convinced it was gonna be hot garbage, I was the one sitting over there in a corner with a dunce cap on my head saying, "Damn it, I know Disney can't stop shooting themselves in the foot, but I don't want to root against this movie. I can't do that. I want to hope for the best. I want it to be good." But then information starts coming out. Concerning information. We learn that Sam Flynn and the Korra character from Tron Legacy will not appear in the movie, so who knows what happens with that cliffhanger. And more befuddling, not only is Bruce Boxleitner not in the movie either, apparently they didn't even ask him to return. Not as Alan Bradley, not as Tron, after the last movie left Tron on a big cliffhanger too. And yeah, that's a head scratcher. How can you have a Tron movie without Tron? I mean, sure, this is the same studio that basically tried to do Willow without Willow, so maybe it's not that surprising, but still, what the f***? Now, the movie was in development hell for years before they decided to do the soft reboot thing. I'm sure they went through many different versions of the script, which would explain some of this, but to not have those characters appear at all? There is a tease in the movie that Sam and Korra could potentially show up in a future sequel, but who the hell knows if that'll ever happen? And even if it does, this movie pretty much renders them both pointless anyway. All the amazing discoveries and breakthroughs and innovations that Sam and Korra were supposed to usher in after Tron Legacy ended, they've now been done by brand new, more diverse female characters after Sam and Korra f***ed off and disappeared. You can probably guess the rest. And you know the really frustrating thing? This movie was obviously made by some people who love Tron and cared about doing it justice. There's so many homages and callbacks to the other films and all the lore that made that very clear. And I love that stuff. That was awesome. But there also must have been some bad actor with a seat at the table and way too much power who insisted on adding all this stupid stuff, like girl bosses and incompetent male characters, and so on.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So what we ended up with is a movie that looks like Tron, that has some ideas that could have been interesting if the execution was better, and seems to want to advance the story in some compelling ways, but is stuck with writers who had no clue what to do with those ideas and is dragged down by a bunch of current year political nonsense. There are certainly things to like about this movie. The visual effects, my god, they are absolutely stunning. The grid looks more impressive and expansive than ever. Seeing these programs out in the real world looks very cool and makes for some fun set pieces, but the best part was a sequence where they recreated the digital world from the original film with the old school retro effects for bit and the light cycles and all that stuff. Holy nostalgia, Batman, you couldn't wipe the grin off my face if you tried. The visuals get a big thumbs up, and for a Tron movie, if you get that stuff right, that's half the ball game right there. Also, the score by Trent Reznor is very good. Is it on the same level as the Daft Punk music in Tron Legacy? No, but it's solid, it's perfectly fine, it works in the movie. They recreated some of the old sets, like Flynn's office and the arcade. I loved seeing those again, and a lot of the iconic imagery from the franchise. And holy shit, there were some shots in there that were just jaw-droppingly beautiful. And these are things that only Tron fans are going to appreciate. That's how you know there were at least some people with good intentions making this movie, which includes Jared Leto apparently. Turns out he's a big fan himself. That was news to me. Now, say what you will about Leto, he's a weird dude who makes a lot of weird acting choices, but the man is an Oscar winner for a reason, and he took this seriously. He dialed himself back, he played it straight, and I thought his performance was fine. He's not required to do anything except play it straight, which is another issue, but it's fine. Didn't think I'd be saying that, admittedly. He's playing the ultimate soldier created by a computer. Jared Leto isn't the first name that comes to mind with a role like this, but the ultimate soldier with Pinocchio syndrome, who wants to be a real boy, is grappling with the concept of humanity as he himself is slowly becoming more human. That kind of works. They really don't do anything with it, but he doesn't look out of place in the role. The movie has a lot of problems, but Leto isn't one of them. But here's where the bad stuff comes in. I really want to know who had the final say in all these creative decisions, because in the absence of basically every character this franchise is supposed to be about, Kevin Flynn shows up for a minute, but he's barely in there. Without all those people, they didn't seem to know what to do or who to focus on. There's ARES, but Jared Leto is actually not the lead of the movie. He plays the title character, but it's more of an ensemble. In fact, you could argue that the main character is actually this woman, who is so bland and generic and uninteresting I could not remember her name for the life of me, but she is, for all intents and purposes, the new Flynn. Yeah. And that's the really annoying thing. If you think about this character and what the movie does with her, she's very obviously just a rewritten stand-in for Sam Flynn. At some point after Tron Legacy, this woman and her sister took over Encom and turned the whole company around, made it a huge success again, like Sam was supposed to do but didn't, but the sister passed away. The sister is the Kevin Flynn in this scenario, so now she's trying to live up to the legacy of her sister in the same way that Sam would have been dealing with his father's legacy at Encom had the movie not done away with him because reasons. It's the same thing. It's the same idea. This is the role that the Sam character would have been in. They just got rid of the Flynn family and gave their roles to a new character who just happens to be a diverse woman. Damn it, Disney, have you learned nothing? When South Park warns you about this shit, you f***ing listen to them!
Put a diverse woman in it, make it Sam!
Yeah, so I didn't care about this character, and they didn't do a thing to make me care. A plank of wood would have had more screen presence and probably would have given a better performance. She's really unconvincing in action scenes, and whenever she was on screen, I couldn't help but think, lady, you're not who I'm here for. I don't know why you're even in this movie. Go away! And then there's the villain, Evil White Dude. Oops. I mean, Dillinger, grandson of Dillinger from the original film, but Evil White Dude describes the character a lot more accurately. I'd like to be forgiving of this guy because, thanks to Evan Peters, he's pretty much the only one in the film who has any kind of personality, but this guy is so worthless as a villain and as a character, I'm convinced that he's only in the movie at all so they could humiliate him. The character is written as an incompetent, idiotic failure man-child with his mommy constantly hovering over his shoulder, telling him how he has no control of this situation he's created, how reckless he's being, what stupid mistakes he's making, how terrible all his decisions are. And she's not wrong about any of that, by the way. There are plenty of times when he'll do something absolutely f***ing stupid on the face of it, and you're thinking, bro, how can you do this and possibly think you won't get caught? Do you have a single brain cell in your head? For f***'s sake, he sends ARES to hunt down... What's-her-face in the middle of a crowded city right after he debuted ARES to all the top brass of the military. The second they get wind of this, and they will because those light cycles are not f***ing subtle, where the hell do you think they're going? And this guy is supposed to be a genius? Off. And then after Dillinger's mommy has spent the first 2 acts of the film putting him in his place, huge waste of Gillian Anderson by the way, they introduce another girl boss to do the same damn thing when his creation instantly grows beyond his control, and not even for the first time in the movie because he's an idiot. And also because that's what happened in the original film and we had no other ideas for this. For crying out loud, at least in OG Tron, Dillinger Sr. was crafty enough to steal Flynn's work and force him out of the company. Sure, Master Control usurped him pretty quickly, but the man wasn't a dummy. He had a working brain. Dillinger Jr. is a fucking clown who can't do anything right. What a complete joke of a legacy character who could have been a good villain if you'd put 1 ounce of common sense and thought into this.
I don't know what the heck's going on here, but someone needs to get their asses kicked.
But sadly, thought is in short supply in this movie, which is kind of infuriating because they had concepts here that that could have been thought-provoking if they'd done anything with them. They had some cool stuff all queued up about what Korra's existence could mean for the evolution of AI and whatnot, but they threw that out in the exposition dump that opens the movie, only to then introduce a new story about the ARES program gaining humanity. Could be worth thinking about, even though Legacy already did this with Korra anyway, and then they don't do anything with that either. What does it mean for a program to exist in the real world? Can they function like normal humans? Do they have the same physical needs? Can they be injured without getting derezzed? Do they bleed like humans or feel emotions like humans? They seem to have the same abilities they had in the digital world, so they must be different on some level, but if so, how are they different? How are they the same? Where's the line? I don't know. The movie isn't interested in exploring any of that. The programs are weirdly fascinated by rain for some reason. That's about all we get. They're leaning hard on this idea for the entire movie, and they barely develop it at all. And after they spend the whole film doing nothing with their own framing device, they actually have the balls to end the movie in basically the same place that the previous film ended on, only this time our new diverse replacement characters have succeeded in all the ways that the legacy characters we actually cared about failed. Holy crap, it's Jake Skywalker and Rey all over again. Change the bloody record, Disney. Jesus Christ! And all this might have been a little more tolerable if at least the story had been a little smarter, a little more thoughtful, enough that it didn't feel like the filmmakers were dumbing everything down on purpose. But when they finally reached the MacGuffin that the whole story is about, and you realize that this entire time it's just been sitting there in a computer system from the 1980s that Encom, even with their near limitless technological resources, were for some reason unable to crack until now, you start to notice that, damn, this movie about supposedly smart people and smart computers and smart programs is actually pretty f***ing stupid. Shit. God damn it. I wanted so badly to love this movie, and it wouldn't have even been that hard. Just feature a couple of the characters I wanted to see again, follow up on the ideas that Legacy put on the table, a story that makes sense, a villain who isn't a complete embarrassment, a script with a little bit of genuine thought put into it. I would not have been hard to please. Instead, what we got was a bunch of bland, forgettable new stand-in characters I couldn't be forced to give a shit about, ideas that were either recycled from the previous films or were introduced only to be wasted because the people behind this movie had no idea what to do with them, and a script that gets stupider the more you think about it and has little to offer except member berries that turn sour as soon as you realize that it's trying to reboot, change, or get rid of a lot of things about this IP that got you in the door in the first place. Even though there seemed to be some people involved with the making of this movie who cared about doing it right, there either weren't nearly enough of them, or they were simply overruled by much stupider people with an obvious agenda and way too much power for their own good. So, business as usual over at Disney, I guess.
This experience has changed me. It's made me more cynical, more bitter, more jaded.
I wish I could appreciate this movie for the things it does well. The visuals, the music, the callbacks to the original film. I get a kick out of that stuff. But then the rest of the movie happens. You see all the stupid things in it, all the wasted potential, the lame-brained creative choices, the politically motivated nonsense, and suddenly any love this film might appear to have for the franchise it's a part of just feels hollow and meaningless. Maybe some of the filmmakers had their hearts in the right place, but if everyone with any creative influence is a f***ing idiot, the best outcome you can probably hope for is a participation trophy. If Tron ARES is proof of anything, it's that Disney has no idea what to do with franchises in general anymore. Not the ones they acquired from other studios, and certainly not their own. One after another, they just keep on botching these things, making the same mistakes over and over and over without ever learning their lesson or understanding where they went wrong, and it doesn't look like that's gonna change anytime soon. So the next time one of Disney's franchise projects comes along, I'm gonna have to wait for them to prove themselves before I give them a f***ing inch. I mean, that was pretty much there already, but Tron was an exception I shouldn't have made, and now here I am again. It might be a more depressing way to approach fandoms, but hell, at least I can take the dunce cap off now. Thanks so much for watching. While you're here, ding that bell icon and follow all of my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The links are down there. And if you want to support the channel, being interactive is the best and maybe only way that counts anymore. So it's more important than ever for you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and make sure you're still subscribed, because what really deserves to be derezzed by Master Control is the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now. I'll be back with more soon. Take care, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.